Today's conversation is about sovereignty, self-leadership, and what it actually takes to scale your life and business in a way that feels aligned, embodied, and sustainable. In this episode, my guest and I talk about energetically aligned scaling, money mindset expansion, and why fulfillment has to come before strategy, not after. We also dive into the importance this year specifically of in-person experiences, why being in the room changes everything, creates real energetic shifts, and what becomes available when you stop trying to grow alone. And at the end of this episode, Nicole takes you through a live practice. So this isn't just a conversation you listen to, it's one that you are going to feel. So who is this amazing guest? Nicole Cherie Hesse is a founder of Wonder World Marketing, a top-rated podcast host and a Forbes-featured self-made millionaire who went from being a healthy bartender to building a multi-seven-figure international marketing empire in her first year. She has empowered thousands of entrepreneurs to monetize their skill sets while strategically aligning their systems to create consistent 5- and 6-figure months, all while expanding their impact. She's also the creator of the 7-layer transformation, a fulfillment-first mindset framework that rewrites thought patterns for rapid, sustainable success. When she's not running her companies, writing her books, or coaching her clients, you'll find her floating in a salt tank or in an airport with her husband, 2 teenage kids on their way to their next adventure. Nicole has big plans to expand Wonder World to entrepreneurial theme park proportions, and she'll be the first to tell you that this is just the beginning. And I'm here to tell you that this beginning is now. So here we go. Welcome, Nicole.
All right. So now that you just heard who Nicole is, we are going to meet her in the flesh. Hey, Nicole, how you doing?
Oh, hey.
I laugh. Like that is the amount of small talk you are going to hear in this conversation because we are just going to get into it. I know you and I are similar in this way. We go deep, we go fast. So hard hitting right out of the gate. This, of course, podcast is about energetic advantage with season 1, a focus on leadership. And as soon as I tapped into the frequency of this months ago, your face popped in as really for me, the embodiment of self-leadership. And so let's start the conversation there. When you hear the word sovereignty, what does that mean to you energetically?
When I feel the word sovereignty, it's this sensation that kind of ripples through my solar plexus. And it's like a holding together, like a magnetism. It's something where like everything is being attracted to this one intentional point. And from that frequency of sovereignty, we move, we choose, we decide, but also we create. And so when we're in a lack of sovereignty, it's as if there's no order to the chaos. It's that we are flitting around from one thing to the next and grasping, looking for something to externalize, something else to like be the glue. When you're in a frequency of sovereignty, you don't even consider the fact of glue because you are it. And so you are making decisions from the frequency of hindsight. You already know what's going to happen. You're just remembering what your future self already knows. And so in sovereignty, you are being yourself, regardless of what is or is not happening around you.
And so if I'm hearing you correctly, this is the base of really everything and anything, not just in business, but in life.
It's really what holds atoms together, right?
Yeah.
Like matter itself is built on the frequency of sovereignty.
Okay. So some people listening might be hearing this and feeling it in their body. And I know some people are probably trying to translate it through their brain. So let's try to give them an experience of what does it feel like or what tends to break first in the world around you when you are trying to do things, whether that's in your life or business, without sovereignty, without self-leadership.
The breaking point comes in the fact of a temper tantrum fuel where you're like, I can't do this anymore. That's the exact language pattern that hits your brain. I can't do this anymore. And that might be in a relationship. That might be at a job frequently, right? That might be in a set of circumstances that you've created for yourself. Maybe you have a house or a car or something that's very tangible. And you're like, I literally can't do this anymore. And so your body starts to reject the reality around you because you have externalized things that need to be internalized. For me, this presented very much in the form of drinking. It was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't keep being this person. And literally everything in my life fell away. And I rebuilt in the frequency of sovereignty because I used to give that sovereignty to alcohol. And then alcohol translated that over to giving it to my boss, giving it to my first marriage, giving it to anybody and everybody who was willing to define me because I didn't want the responsibility of defining myself.
Okay. And so this, I think, brings us to this really big tipping point for a lot of people is, you know, you, and please share a bit of your story here. You scaled quickly. As soon as you brought that sovereignty, I just felt that moment when you were like, okay, this is mine. You scaled your business quickly, globally, sustainably. And so, what decisions did you make differently from this building from sovereignty that perhaps is different than the way other people build businesses? Like, you are a unicorn, right? And I believe part of your unicornness is your sovereignty. So, how did that show up in the way you may have done things differently, or that you did do differently for sure?
Permission was no longer even a factor. Some people are like, I stopped asking for permission. No. It's like permission stopped being part of my vocabulary. Like, I stopped looking for somebody else to be the adult. I stopped looking for approval. I stopped looking for anybody to give me any sort of indication of what was possible for me or what was okay for me. So all of those things like just dissolved. They no longer existed. And so I started moving from the inner knowing. And so every decision I made was a decision that was already previously made by my future self. So it was like the feeling of being guided by hindsight. It's like watching a movie that you've already seen before. You know what the next scene is. And so when I was working for other people, I was a consultant. I needed permission for them, like for everything, like for every marketing decision, for every hiring and firing decision, I needed external permission. In running my own company, I moved so much faster because there was no red tape. There was no board. There was no convincing other people. It was like, this is what I know is the right decision. And I would just do it. It was done before I could even consider if I would or wouldn't do it. So there was no fence sitting energy because I was just calibrating to something that I already know existed.
You talk so much in your work about timelines, connecting with these versions of yourself. Can you talk to us about how you do that and how you help your clients do this? Because this, I feel, is one of your energetic advantages, specifically in your industry, that I don't think anyone else is doing.
Clients have the hardest time with the logic jump. And so that's the first thing that we need to do. And for me, I didn't need that. I didn't need the logic jump. It was already there. Like whether it's past lives or whatever, like I already knew this to be true. But with my clients, they don't know it in this realm. And so we work through the logical pieces of, is it possible that there's another, call it dimension, if that's what you want to call it, right? Is there another era? Is there another set of circumstances where you have created a different life? Maybe you married a different dude, right? Maybe you had a different child. Maybe something that was really pivotal in your life did or didn't happen, right? Maybe you didn't get the job. Is it possible that there's other versions of you in other dimensions, other timelines that are living out all of these different configurations? And once you can believe that, and like for me, I get like this tingly feeling on my skin where I'm like, oh yeah, that's the truth. Like the truth just sounds different. It just feels different in your body. And so when you logically can get on board with believing that these other versions of you exist, then those other versions become resources because those other versions have experience. They have wisdom, they have guidance. But what they have that a traditional mentor doesn't have is the exact language patterns to speak to you in for you to understand because you are speaking to yourself. Anytime I'm listening to a mentor, if I listen to you, I have to translate that. I have to filter that from Jessica language to Nicole language and then digest it. And I probably lose something in translation. It's a different language. But when I speak to me, my higher self speaks to my present self, or a different timeline version of me speaks to me, I speak to me in the exact language pattern. And so once I can get a client on board with that logic pattern, and we do this through really helping our past selves. If you go and you help your past self through something, then logically you start believing that your future self is helping your current self. And so you connect the timeline dots. And once that logic jump comes in, then we can start working through the emotional integrations that come up with being guided by your higher self, because sometimes it's really scary because things do move very swiftly and some people aren't that comfortable with speed.
You just can't make this shit up. I'm laughing at the beautiful absurdity of the timing that we are having this conversation in a month coming that is going to be beyond logic. And I want everyone to hear this. Let's put the pieces of this together. Most people will tell you, prioritize your heart over your head, take your mind out of the front seat and put it in the back seat. And what you do is you go through the logic. You don't take it separate. You don't tell it to go away. You don't bypass it. I love how you just said that. Like, you go to the resistance first. And if that doesn't say everything about your personality, you see the resistance. There are a million ways that you could probably sidestep it, go around it, and that could make you successful for a moment. But I know you're here for the sustainable success, not only for you and your clients. So I'm super curious now. We all have it at all different times. Where are you feeling this resistance for you? Where are you choosing right now to go right into the resistance? Because you know it's going to help you and it's going to help everybody else when you share it.
I mean, for me, like I have a certain knowing, like I know that separation is an illusion. So trying to compartmentalize something like logic is literally the definition of crazy, right? So it's releasing any need for compartmentalization. So I look for the plexiglass in my brain. Where am I separating the animals in the zoo? Right? Like, where do I feel like the tiger shouldn't be next to the bunny? And so I start looking for those pieces. And so for me right now, where this is in change. I'm in a massive transformational energy portal right now where I'm like literally being pulled. Like I feel like I'm entering a black hole and like I'm still have one foot on this side of the black hole and the other foot is like already in the next dimension. And I'm like, like having my innards like stretched across the universe. It's very uncomfortable, but there's a certain level of the inner knowing that like I'm supposed to witness this. It's like if you're jumping off a cliff into water and you close your eyes. Like you might make yourself do it because you can't see it. And so you're just like, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to do the hard thing. I've done that before. I've closed my eyes and I've taken action. This specific task is requiring that I keep my eyes open. It's requiring that I witness it, that I feel every fiber of me being stretched because of capacity. It's time for me to expand my capacity. And I have a lot of resistance because my capacity feels big enough, damn it. I'm good. I don't wanna and I feel tired. I feel fatigued. I don't want to expand my capacity. But this is this frequency inside of my body. It's this inner knowing. It's like a budget, right? You can either spend less money, right? And stop doing all the things you love, or you could just make more. I've always been the person that just makes more money. That's even when bartender land, you just make more money. If you want to do shit, you make more money, right? And so for me right now, that's the exact thing around the capacity is I get to increase this capacity because right now there's no possible way that I can budget myself more. I can't lower that number. So it's a fixed number now. And so I only have one choice and it's expand your capacity or die. That's what you're doing today. And so the resistance to this is really the feeling of like obligation. I don't want to, and I shouldn't have to, and it's not fair. But often leaders feel this way. We feel the burden of leading the masses and that it's not fair that we have to do it. And sometimes we wish we could just be them. I wish sometimes somebody would just fucking lead me for a change, right? And allow me to be guided under their wing. But that's not my calling in this life. And it's a certain level of accepting that. And that's where the resistance is. I don't want to accept that I have to be the top of the pyramid. I just want to be in the middle, damn it. Leave me alone.
This is fascinating. I'm looking at the time. 14 hours ago, I had this equation pop in and I shared it on my stories about this capacity and the inputs and how, just like you said, there are many ways to solve that equation. And followers do just what you said. They reduce one side of the equation to make it even, to make it more comfortable. But there you go. You never expand past the solution of that equation. And leaders know that it's in the other side of the equation, the expansion of that, where the growth lies. And it's not, like you said, it's not comfortable. And I think I'm curious about this because what I was getting in this energy is I think the most perhaps uncomfortable part is we don't yet know where that number will land. We don't know how much we are going to be required to expand, but I believe that we will know when we know. So I'm curious about that. Has this happened in a time in your life before where you're in this period of expanding capacity? And how did you know when you had reached that level, if that makes sense? We're never done growing, but I feel there is a time where it like evens out and then it's okay, here we go again, evens out. So can you remember back to a time and how did that feel for you?
In my life, I've had to expand capacity several times very poignantly, like in a short amount of time, right? To collapse the timelines, make a change, do something different. And one of those times was when I started my business, because in bartender land, I was used to a certain level of capacity of talking to people and being in the energetic field. But the thing about being a bartender is you go to work and you go home, right? You go in and you leave. And so there's very concrete boundaries in that. When I started working in online spaces globally, that is gone. There's no external boundary in time and space. There's no external boundary in a workplace. And so you have a phone that's connecting you to all of these people all the time. And at first, I had no idea how to regulate the emotional connection pieces of being connected to clients, connecting to audience members, but just connected to the platform itself of being like literally plugged into Facebook creates an energetic surge that I just was not really equipped for. So in the beginning pieces of that, I got to become the next version of myself. I got to expand that. And that was something that allowed me to be in the space of growth, that allowed me to take steps. But when I did that, it was very step based. I could feel each step underneath my feet. I knew that this step was there. I knew there was a whole staircase ahead of me, but I also knew that I didn't have to take all of the steps right now. I could work up to it, if that makes sense. And it was always very clear that it was safe to take the next step and that I could pause on the landing. This is more of a situation like, I don't know if you've ever climbed a rope. um, if you
Yes.
haven't, you should. It's a terrible experience. But if you try and climb a rope, right? What happens if you stop climbing? Like, you still have to hold your body weight. You still have to hold yourself there, and you're exerting just as much energy holding as you are climbing. And there's a stabilization that comes in because the rope is swinging at the bottom. And so that's how I feel now in this jump. It's not steps anymore. I'm on a rope and like I might as well keep climbing because it takes just as much energy to hold this space as it does to move forward. And so the fatigue isn't alleviated by stopping.
Beautiful and annoying.
Annoying. Like seriously, the most annoying feeling. I just want to
Yeah.
get off the damn rope, but there's nowhere to go. Like it's just up. There's nowhere to go.
Yeah. And one of the things that I would say most admire, but I admire and love about you is your willingness to give to your clients and also just to humanity by sharing your experiences so openly. And when you share these messages, I see and hear and feel the response that it creates in other people. What do you feel is happening energetically when you share your experiences from this place of sovereignty and self leadership, no matter what the experience is? How does it activate people before they even know why? I think I just said it like of why I think you're unique. I see you sharing and it activates people and they're not sure why yet. So, what is happening energetically? And what I'm trying to get is to share a little bit about your genius here, about connecting with others, not through just words or just pictures, but like through energy. How does that work for you?
I'm an agitator. And this is something that is very challenging to be an agitator because people are constantly agitated with you.
Yes.
Um, but the way to describe this is before your time. So I have a favorite author. Her name is Anne Rice, and she died a couple years ago, and it devastated my life. But she wrote the Vampire Chronicles. So if you're familiar with
Yes.
Interview with the Vampire, Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, right?
Got it.
So she wrote Interview with the Vampire like 15 years before people really cared. She had a small cult following where nobody really knew who she was until that movie came out, and then it became this complete sensation. Why was that? Because she's an agitator. She did things before her time. She did things before the culture, the market was ready. And so By the time the market caught up with her, she was like, yeah, I've been saying this for a decade. That's how I always feel. I'm always in the frequency of I told you so, because I did. I told you 10 years ago, right? Whether this was my best friend or my first husband or my second husband, I told you, and then it happened. But why is that? Because I have this inner knowing, because I'm operating from hindsight and in the energetic frequency. I'm going to tell you something that you're not ready to hear. Readiness is the feeling that you feel after you take action, not before. And so I'm going to tell you something, and that's going to agitate a seed that already exists inside of you. It's a little bit like Inception, right? I'm going to activate something that already exists, and then it's going to keep you up at night. It's going to bother you. And so therefore I am going to bother you. So frequently when I put my content out, it goes viral. Like I write, I'm not a Reels video kind of viral. I'm a writer viral. And so when I write, I get millions of views, and people are very agitated. They don't like the truth that's coming out of my mouth, and it doesn't sit well in their bodies, but they still know it's true. And that makes it even worse, right?
You are truly embodying two of the frequencies of this month, which is truth, but it's also the confidence in your truth. And perhaps it's the combination of those two that are the agitators, because as you said, it is a truth that they are not yet ready to hear. And so if anybody out here is writing or sharing or marketing your business and asking yourself the question, what are my clients ready to hear? I hope you just heard from Nicole. Throw out that question. If you are asking that question, you will always be in an energy of response or reactivity, not proactivity. And I'm laughing because I probably read that question in a million marketing how-tos. This is what you need to ask yourself before you share. And so you're literally rewriting the book. I also want to talk about one of your energetic advantages, I feel, is in-person connection. And for a person who has built a multi-seven-figure business online, why do you feel in-person experiences are essential for energetic leadership?
Well, let me start with a little bit of fear mongering, which I tend to be against. But I do think this one is valid, and maybe not from the space of pain point poking, but at least from the space of emotional awareness. Your IQ needs to be keeping up with the trends and the times. And right now, the biggest surge, the biggest interruption, the disruption we have in not just the coaching world, but the online world is AI. And that's not just impacting like our industry. Of course, it's impacting factories, right? People are losing their jobs every day because of AI. It's being replaced, right? And that's always going to be the case. When we put machinery into a factory, we replace human bodies as well. There's always going to be this upgrade. So right now, AI is that disrupting kind of energy. But you know what AI cannot disrupt? In-person connection. It cannot replace that. And so it's a short-term integration point that for everybody who's running an online business, you really, for the next 5 years, need to understand that if you do not shift from education to experience, you will be gone. The end. This is not a maybe. This is not maybe you will be gone. I promise you, we will not be having this conversation and you will be back in corporate because you will not be able to hold the frequency of what's coming in this next integration. It's experiential. Now, you can create experiences virtually, but so can AI, right? And so now in person, this is the replacement. This is the upgrade, but also it's very challenging because a lot of people who build their businesses online are actually not that good in person. When you meet them in person, it's like, don't meet your heroes. It destroys the veil. But there's a small percentage of us who are actually better in person than we are online. And that's what I've found through my client integration. So when I'm telling you something you don't want to hear, and it's before your time, it's before you're ready, and you're agitated with me, and maybe you're one of my clients, and you're in my lower division, and I'm pissing you off left and right. When you get into my energetic field, I do a very specific energetic practice where I open up my chakra alignment pool, and it's like a river. So you have the ability to step into the water, okay, and feel what it feels like to be moving at my speed, my velocity, 7-figure frequency, but also my viewpoint of the world. I intentionally open my energetic field, let you come into it, and then you're like, oh my God, I understand. I get it. So all of those things that I told you, you were not ready for. When we're in person, you learn through osmosis. Our cells expand and contract together, and you get to really assimilate into the belief systems that I carry that help you to instantly learn the language. It's full immersion learning, the same way that if you want to learn Spanish, go to Barcelona, right? The fastest way to learn a language is to live in the environment where that is the only option. And that's what in-person experiences can calibrate to when you have an energetic leader that knows how to open that door. But I got to tell you, most people don't know how to open the door in the first place. They don't know how to hold it open. And they definitely don't know how to let you into it without creating codependencies. And that is, I mean, if we're talking splitting hairs of what I'm doing differently than everybody else in my field, you're coming into my energetic frequency without creating a dependency in the process.
100%. You know, it's interesting because I can say with absolute certainty that if anyone's listening and they're like, wow, like Nicole's energy is just amazing coming through my ears, or they see you online, in person is the next level, right? Because I have experienced that. And so this is, just like you said, one of the moments where, whether it's a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and you do not start to bring this into your own practice, I will send you this podcast and I will say, she told us so, right? Because this is the year of identity. And that one energy is really about, like you said, showing up as yourself while at the same time connecting with other people in their sovereign energy. So I'd actually love to hear, because I think people would love to hear like specific examples of perhaps something, either a result, a feeling, or an experience that you have been able to create or help facilitate with a client in person that would not have been possible online, or perhaps would have been possible, but maybe in 50 years, I don't know, it would have taken an infinite longer time.
I mean, in person definitely collapses all of the timelines because you can't hide, right? I had this one client, we just did an activation last year in December. 2 clients actually came out for a VIP day together at the same time. And so we went to this compound in Tulum, which was actually where Pablo Escobar hung out. It was his compound and they converted it into a hotel. It's absolutely stunning. It's so beautiful. And so we spent the whole day there. I mean, basking in the frequency of wealth, because you want to talk about money. Okay. Pablo Escobar had some money, right? So it was this wealth activation point. And so both of these clients came in at kind of similar frequencies in their business. They're making, about 20 to 30 grand a month, but having spotty months, right? In and out of that frequency. Now, at the compound, like we had breakfast, we ate, we sat on the beach, we did very quote unquote normal things. But one of these clients, she was hiding the whole time, physically. Like she was taking phone calls. I'm like, you paid a lot of money to be here, right? And so she's taking phone calls and she's like, oh, my client needs me and all these things. And she kept walking away from us. And it's, of course, because she couldn't hold the frequency. And so I let her do it for the first couple hours of the day, right? And then I brought that in and gave her this awareness to the point of capacity. Like, we need to talk about what you are so resistant about hearing because this truth wants to come through for you, but you are literally taking phone calls so that you do not have to listen to it. And so that awareness alone, she shifted at lunch and was like, oh my God. And so then she leaned in and allowed this space. Now, the other client was hiding in another way. Okay, because avoidance is sneaky.
I know. So annoying.
So annoying. But this client was hiding from real conversation, right? So it was like asking a lot of questions, like rapid fire questions, so that I couldn't control the narrative of the conversation at all, right? And I looked at her and I put my hand up and I said, listen, we're done talking about what you want to talk about. What we're going to talk about is what you need to hear from me, because that's why you got on a plane. That's why you're in Mexico. We get to talk about the things that is coming through for your higher self, telling my higher self what to talk about. Your chitter chatter here is filling up space so that you don't have to have the activating conversation and you can safely stay where you're at. So at lunch, I sat down with both of them and I was like, listen up, right? You're going to learn today. And so we opened that field up, did the deeper work, and we did this in an immersion point with water. Water is something that is a conduit, right? And so if you're feeling a disconnection, even if this is something like with your spouse, right? With your children, if you get in the water with other people, you create the connection and the bond that comes literally through osmosis of your energetic frequencies. And it can be a little easier, right? It makes the barrier to entry a little bit slippier. You can get in there. And so that's what we did. We all got in the water together and we did this energetic exercise to be able to attune to the 7-figure frequency. I can't make this shit up. 7 months later, both of them in the same month hit 7-figure frequency and had $83,000 months, because that's the $1 million run rate, right? If you make $83,000 a month for a year, you make 7 figures. And so they both acclimated to that in 7 months on the same month at the same time.
Genius. And also, again, going back to your advantage of being willing to agitate, right? Being willing to say the things that they were actively trying to not hear. And you could have easily just sipped another mocktail and laid in this beautiful place and just allowed that to happen. But just genius. When I hear this, knowing the impact that you had with those 2 clients and the thousands of other clients you have, and it's because you were able to express what people needed to hear, not what they wanted to hear. I want to give you space here to tap in and tell us all right now what we need to hear, but might not want to.
In the interest of getting logic on board first, because you can't really receive any sort of channeled information without your logic being on board. So in the interest of this, if you're listening to this, just take a second and I want you to tap on your third eye, like just tapping and bringing your awareness into your prefrontal cortex. Because as you do this, what we're doing is activating the creative center inside of your brain instead of your lower limbic system, because we tend to be in survival mode, specifically when we're listening to things we don't want to hear. So as you tap, take a couple big deep breaths in and just really allow yourself to close your eyes and drop into that frontal cortex. This is where every new outcome in your world is created. If we operate from the lower limbic, we create the same thing that we created yesterday because that's safe. But you can create safety in your body right now just by saying the word safety, feeling the energy coming up through the soles of your feet, in through the palms of your hands, down through your crown, feeling safety in your body, assigning it a color, and just letting it vibrate through every single cell. So as you stop tapping, just move your palms into the upright position. This is the receiving position. And kind of like the water, this becomes a conduit of your body physically agreeing to allow yourself to listen, even if you have resistance. You certainly will have resistance, because if you didn't have resistance, these are things that you would have already done. Just take another big deep breath in and a big deep breath out. And feel your connection to your higher self, the version of you who already has everything that you desire. This version of you has a very clean and clear message. My job and my role in this is to help you to understand that there is no better guidance than the guidance from the version of you who already has what you want, because that is hindsight. So where in your life are you listening to someone, believing that they know better than you? This could be a coach, could be a mentor, could be your husband, could be school. It could be a degree that you got years ago. It could be an old pattern, could be your past self. Identify who this person is. And now I know a lot of people in the energetic world talk about shit like cord cutting or all sorts of nonsense like that. I don't believe in any sort of violence or pushing away or getting rid of or even clearing. I don't believe in any of those things, because every emotion, every experience, every wisdom is valid and valuable. But what I want you to recognize is the fact that you are plugged into this entity, whatever it is. And so I want you to imagine an extension cord, one that has 2 plugs on each side. One of those is plugged into your chest right now, and the other one is plugged into this entity. And all I want you to do is gently, with gratitude, look this person or this entity in the eye and just pull the plug out and say, thank you. Thank you for everything that you've shown me. Thank you for your guidance and your wisdom. And I want you to take that plug and I want you to turn it towards yourself, and I want you to plug it into your chest. So this is an extension cord running between you and your higher self. And I want you to listen and just close your eyes and allow yourself to receive that truth that your higher self has for you right now. And just hear it and notice where you don't believe it. Notice where you don't want to hear it. and just acknowledge that shift for yourself. You may feel a shift in your body. Like right now, if you notice my throat just cleared a little bit, right? That throat chakra activation may come in for you, maybe somewhere else in your body. So feel that twinge. The thing that you don't want to hear is that you are the adult. You are the God. You are the leader for yourself, and no one is coming to save you. The only salvation we truly have is self-sovereignty, and that is the connection that we have between ourselves and our higher selves. Realizing that that separation is an illusion. Stop seeking external answers. Stop seeking more education and start creating the experience that you desire to have, regardless of what anybody else has told you is possible for you in the past. This is your choice, and no one else can make it for you. That's the hardest thing any of us will ever hear in our lives, is that it's our responsibility, it's our choice, and that there's no one else that's going to do this for us.
What a gift. What a gift. Thank you so much. And I'm laughing because if you didn't turn off the podcast during that time, you are still here and you are wanting to hear more from Nicole and to connect with her more. So please, can you tell us how people can stay connected to you outside of this podcast and what they can do to continue on with the activation and the agitation that may have happened today?
I have a podcast. It's called Real Unicorns Don't Wear Pants. It is a top-ranked podcast, and this is something I've been doing for 5 years, and we are in the evolution of creating new eras in this podcast, but it has 5 years worth of mindset magic. It has 5 years worth of really intentional pieces of strategy, not just for your business, but for you becoming the person, from moving from those self-sabotage patterns into the frequency of self-sovereignty, becoming the next version of yourself again and again. And it's done in a very fun and funny way as we wind our way through bar stories and all of the terrible things that I've done in my life. It's very entertainment based. But Real Unicorns Don't Wear Pants is one of the fastest ways that you can really assimilate to the frequency of agitation and do that really uncomfortable thing, which of course is looking in the mirror and then actually doing something about the things that you don't like when you look at yourself.
Ugh, love it. And I'm going to give you the highest compliment I can give everybody is typically I listen to podcasts at 2.0. I listen to yours at 1.5. And sometimes when I'm really feeling like I want to just embody and embrace everything you're saying, I put it at regular speed.
No way. You don't even believe it. I don't listen to anything at regular speed.
It has happened maybe once or twice.
I'm trying to figure out how to get people to speed up in real life. How do we do this?
I guess that's the one thing you can't do in person, but I guess that is the point. What a gift. Thank you for sharing your energetic advantage with us. Thank you for sharing your heart and your mind and all parts of you today. I just really appreciate you, not just in the moment, but you being a human at this time in this world. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.